Hello, everyone! I'm a physical therapist with PT Progress. Today, we are going to be talking about some interesting facts related to death. I know that sounds kind of morbid, but stick around because they actually have to do with things like Achilles tendinitis, calf cramps, and even shin splints. So if those are things that you deal with or you want to learn about, definitely stay tuned. In the last two videos of this series, we talked about how death starts in your hips and in your feet. I know it's not something you think about very often, but there are some really important takeaways for things like injury prevention and just general movement and exercise recommendations. So, if you haven't seen them yet, I recommend checking out the first two videos in this series before jumping into this one. So let's talk about how death starts in your legs. So I guess it might help to explain what we mean by death. When people think about death, they usually think about their heart stopping or them taking their last breath. But biologically speaking, death is actually defined as the permanent, irreversible cessation of all biological functions that sustain a living organism. So basically, when you hear death, think complete body shutdown. Okay? So how does that start in your legs? Well, there are two main reasons why your legs could be the first place where you see signs of biological system shutdown. The first is because your legs are the furthest away from your heart. And the second is because your legs do a lot of work. Let's go ahead and break these down one at a time. First off, the fact that your legs are the furthest distance away from your heart. You can think of your heart as kind of like a pump that pumps blood throughout your body. And your blood vessels are like the pipes that the blood flows through. Now, in order for your heart to send blood all the way to your legs, it has to put in a decent amount of effort, especially if gravity is working against it. If you're standing upright and the blood is traveling upwards towards your legs, then gravity is working against that flow. So the heart has to pump pretty hard to get blood all the way up to your toes. And since your heart is only one organ working to keep you alive, it doesn't have infinite energy to draw from. Eventually, if your heart stops pumping as efficiently, the most distant parts of your body, aka, are going to be the first to feel the effects of that reduced blood flow. As blood flow to your legs decreases, you may notice some discoloration changes. Your legs may start to turn slightly blue or purple due to deoxygenated blood. And when blood flow decreases, you may also notice that your legs start to swell up. This happens due to a buildup of interstitial fluid, which is basically the oxygen and nutrient-packed water around your cells. Normally, that fluid moves in and out of your cells pretty easy, but when blood flow decreases, that fluid doesn't get circulated back up towards your heart to be pumped back out again. Instead, it kind of stays stagnant in your lower legs, leading to swelling. As blood flow continues to decrease, the amount of oxygen reaching your muscle cells will also decrease. Muscle cells need oxygen to make energy through a process called aerobic respiration. So when they don't get enough oxygen, they switch over to anaerobic respiration, which produces a lot less energy and creates a bunch of lactic acid as a byproduct. Lactic acid causes your muscles to feel sore and tired, which may lead to weakness and fatigue. Eventually, if your body is unable to get enough blood flow to deliver oxygen to your vital organs like your brain and heart, death will occur. Alright, now let's talk about the other reason why death might start in your legs. And that is because of all the work they do. Like I mentioned earlier, your legs are the furthest away from your heart. Not only are they the furthest away, but they're also the largest muscle groups in your body. Your glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves alone account for almost half of your body weight. In order for these large muscles to work, they need energy. And you guessed it, they get their energy from aerobic respiration, which requires oxygen. It is estimated that the human body uses around 250 to 300 liters of oxygen per day at rest. And it turns out that the majority of that oxygen gets used by your leg muscles. That's because roughly 40% of your body's energy expenditure occurs while walking. So you can imagine that your legs are constantly drawing from your body's oxygen stores. Now, if your body is unable to keep up with demand and provide enough oxygen to your leg muscles, those muscles are going to start to fatigue. Just like we talked about earlier. However, another thing that can happen is cramping. Leg cramps are sudden, involuntary muscle contractions that can feel painful. They're thought to occur when there is an imbalance between the amount of excitation, meaning signals from your nervous system, and relaxation in your muscles. In other words, if too many signals are telling your muscle to contract without the proper number of relaxation signals, you end up with a cramp. Calf cramps are extremely common, especially among athletes and active individuals. Some research suggests that dehydration and electrolyte imbalances play a big role in the development of cramps. For example, low levels of calcium, magnesium, and potassium have all been linked to increased cramping. Interestingly, it has also been found that traveling long distances on foot or in a vehicle can increase your risk of developing a cramp, particularly in your calves. It's hypothesized that prolonged static postures may lead to altered neuromuscular control, which could increase the likelihood of cramping. Now, while a cramp may not seem like a huge deal, it can become dangerous if it happens while you're doing something strenuous. Imagine if you were running a marathon and your leg cramped up. It could potentially cause you to fall, which could lead to catastrophic injuries like a head or neck injury. Alright, now let's move on to our third, shin splints. Shin splints are a common overuse injury that typically occur in runners. They're characterized by pain along the inner edge of your or tibia, and are often accompanied by inflammation of the connective tissue that attaches your muscles to your bones, which is called fascia. A lot of the time, shin splints occur because someone has either increased their mileage or intensity of their running program too quickly, which leads to overuse and tiny micro tears within the muscle fascia. Over time, this can lead to chronic inflammation and persistent pain. Now, as with any overuse injury, if left untreated, it can continue to get worse and eventually shut down the entire musculoskeletal system, preventing you from putting weight on your leg and eventually leading to death. Now, I know this video was all hypothetical, but I hope you can see that it is really important to listen to your body and address issues like Achilles tendon, leg cramps, and shin splints early on. These conditions typically don't cause death directly, but they can certainly cause a lot of pain and suffering, and if left untreated, can snowball into more severe problems. Now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What are some other ways that death might start? Also, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more content and have a great day. Bye!